The world watched with bated breath as a prisoner exchange unfolded, a rare glimmer of hope in the often tense relationship between the United States and the Taliban. This moment was more than just a diplomatic gesture, it was a symbol of potential change. This was not just a simple exchange of prisoners, it was a complex and delicate operation that required months of negotiation and trust building. It represented a potential thaw in a conflict that has spanned decades, a conflict that has seen countless lives lost and futures altered. On one side stood the United States, a global superpower with a long history in Afghanistan, marked by military interventions and efforts to establish stability. On the other, the Taliban, a group that had once ruled Afghanistan and was now seeking international recognition and legitimacy in the eyes of the world. This exchange, brokered by the quiet diplomacy of Qatar, has brought the world's attention to the complexities of international relations. Qatar's role as a mediator has been crucial, showcasing its influence and commitment to peace. It has sparked debate, with some praising it as a step towards peace and others criticizing it as a dangerous concession. The reactions have been mixed, reflecting the divided opinions on how to handle such a delicate situation. The weight of this event, the hope it represents, and the uncertainty it brings, hangs heavy in the air. As the world watches, the future of US-Taliban relations remains uncertain, but this exchange has undeniably opened a new chapter in their complex history. To understand the significance of this prisoner exchange, we must delve into the tumultuous history between the United States and the Taliban. This history is marked by decades of conflict, shifting alliances, and a series of dramatic events that have shaped the geopolitical landscape of the region. The relationship is deeply rooted in the Soviet-Afghan War of the 1980s, where the US supported the Afghan Mujahideen, from which the Taliban later emerged. The US saw the Mujahideen as a crucial ally in their fight against Soviet expansion, providing them with weapons, training, and financial support. The September 11th attacks on US soil marked a turning point. The devastating events of that day led to a seismic shift in US foreign policy, with a renewed focus on combating terrorism and ensuring national security. The US, accusing the Taliban of harboring Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, launched a military intervention in Afghanistan. This intervention was aimed at dismantling terrorist networks and bringing those responsible for the attacks to justice. This led to the fall of the Taliban regime, but also marked the beginning of a long and costly war for both sides. The conflict saw numerous battles, loss of lives, and significant financial expenditure, with both the US and the Taliban suffering heavy casualties. The US withdrawal in 2021, after 2 decades of conflict, resulted in the Taliban swiftly regaining control of Afghanistan. This withdrawal marked the end of America's longest war, but it also left behind a nation grappling with uncertainty and the resurgence of Taliban rule. At the heart of this event is the exchange itself. A US citizen, Professor Kevin King, held captive by the Taliban for 3 years, for several high-profile Taliban members. Professor King, a scholar who dedicated his life to understanding Afghanistan, became an unfortunate pawn in this complex geopolitical chess game. His release was met with relief and joy. The Taliban prisoners, held at the US military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, were a point of contention for years. Their release was a major concession by the US, highlighting the difficult choices involved in such negotiations. Qatar, a small Gulf nation with a history of mediating international disputes, played a pivotal role in securing the release of Professor King. Section 4. A divided world reacts hope and apprehension. The prisoner swap has elicited mixed reactions from the international community. While some nations have welcomed the move, others remain deeply skeptical. Some view it as a positive step, a crack in the wall of mistrust that has long divided the region. They believe that this exchange could be the beginning of a new chapter in international diplomacy. They hope this exchange could pave the way for dialogue, potentially leading to a peaceful resolution in Afghanistan. In local communities, there is a sense of cautious optimism, with people gathering to discuss the potential for lasting peace. Others, however, view it with skepticism, concerned that the release of high-ranking Taliban members could embolden the group and destabilize the region further. The fear is that these individuals could return to the battlefield, undoing years of progress. The release of the Taliban prisoners has also sparked debate about the future of Afghanistan. On international platforms, experts and analysts are divided on the implications of this move. Some argue that engaging with the Taliban is necessary for lasting peace. They believe that without including the Taliban in the peace process, any agreement would be incomplete and fragile. Others fear that it legitimizes the group and its ideology, potentially undermining human rights and women's rights in Afghanistan. There are concerns that the progress made in the last 2 decades could be at risk, with women's rights activists and human rights organizations voicing their apprehensions loudly. Section 5. Charting the uncertain future cooperation or conflict. The prisoner exchange has undoubtedly opened a new chapter in U.S.-Taliban relations. It presents both opportunities and risks. On the one hand, it could signal a willingness to engage in dialogue, potentially leading to further negotiations. This could encompass crucial issues such as counter-terrorism efforts, humanitarian aid, and the future governance of Afghanistan. On the other hand, the release of senior Taliban figures could empower the group, potentially leading to a resurgence of violence. The Taliban's commitment to peace and human rights remains uncertain. The international community will be watching closely to see whether this exchange will be a stepping stone toward peace or a stumble backward into conflict. Section 6. A calculated risk. Towards peace or a dangerous precedent. The decision to engage in a prisoner swap with the Taliban was undoubtedly a calculated risk. It reflects the complex dilemmas facing policymakers in the realm of international relations. Was this a necessary concession for the sake of a greater good, the release of a captive professor and a potential step towards peace, or was it a dangerous precedent, one that could embolden the Taliban and undermine future negotiations? The answer remains unclear. Only time will tell whether this gamble will pay off or backfire. Section 7. A time for reflection, the long road ahead. The U.S. Taliban prisoner swap serves as a stark reminder of the enduring conflict in Afghanistan and the challenges of navigating peace. This event compels us to reflect on the human cost of war, the complexities of diplomacy, and the pursuit of peace in a fractured world. As we move forward, it is imperative to approach the situation with cautious optimism, tempered by the lessons learned from the past. The road to peace is long and arduous, paved with both hope and uncertainty. This prisoner swap, while significant, is but a single step on this long and challenging journey.